full blade now, so it's going to be difficult for me to carry on cutting with this full blade because I'll be at a risk of overloading the machine or getting track slippage, which I don't want to do. So we recognise that. So rather than cut, I'm going to carry that material through now. Even though it's going to be high there, I'll remember where it's high because I can feel it. So I'm just carrying that material. You can see the material's not moving. That means you're carrying it. If it was moving, sort of like waving over the blade, that means you're cutting. So we don't want to cut. We just want to carry that. And if it starts to disappear, it means you're losing it from underneath the blade, which you don't want to do either. You don't want to labour the machine. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that low spot, or that high spot, where I started carrying there, because I felt it. Okay, I'm going to take a cut from there now. Don't make the mistake of going back and doing another cut, because you'll struggle again at that high spot. So concentrate on your highest point, even if it takes you a couple of passes to get through it. Keep your eye on what the machine's doing as well, okay? So you've got your load percentage bar, depending on what type of machine you're in. You don't want to be overworking the machine, so keep your eye on what the machine's doing. So as I come through now, what I'm doing now is I'm feeling what I'm doing inside this cab, and I'm feeling through all the different elevations. Okay, so there's a little bit there, so I'm just going to concentrate on this bit. When your toes of your tracks hit your ramp on your exit, as you're following your stockpile up with your blade, don't forget when the toes of the tracks hit the ramp, you need to push that blade out, you need to level that blade back off. Otherwise the blade will come up in the air, you'll lose the material from underneath your blade, and you'll make your ramp too steep. On the entry ramp here, we've got quite a sharp hump. So one of your mandatories in the test is to travel up and down an incline in a controlled manner. Now, depending on when you do this in your test, if you do it at the start of your test, happy days. Be careful that you don't reintroduce that mandatory. So this is a good example of that mandatory, okay? So I'll demonstrate the wrong way of doing it. If I come out of this ramp too quick like this, okay, so you see how sort of like sharp it was, and again, if I go into it too quick, okay, that is not controlled. That is not a controlled way of doing it. You need it. So be careful that you don't reintroduce a mandatory when you're cutting your test. Now that can be in your entry ramp, but it can also be on your exit ramp as well. And a lot of people make the mistake of reintroducing their own mandatory and failing because of it. If you recognise it and you sort it out, happy days. But you need to, we need to sort that out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back a little bit further now. And I'm just going to gently cut this ramp in so it's nice and gradual. If the ground tears, it can't be helped. It's the ground condition, so don't worry about it. Okay, so I've got a full blade there. Okay, so I'm not going to carry that through. I'm just going to leave that there. It doesn't matter. If you can demonstrate, you're spending a little bit of time on a problem area. You're showing your tester that you know what it is, what you're looking for. As you're sorting it out. If you ignore it and just keep going over the same problem all the time, you're going to fail on a mandatory, or you're going to fail on elements of your fault section on your test. And just carry that material to the top. If it starts to look like it's going to have a flat spot on it, lift your blade up and allow the material to come out. If it comes out, this material is pretty wet, but it is coming out slightly. And just build your ramp. The test spec is to go down a metre. Okay? But we're not going to go down a metre. We're going to sort of like leave it round about that depth. So if I just take a reference point throughout it, just make sure that I'm happy with it. So first line there. So it's slightly high there. Okay, so I'm going to cut a little bit out of this bit. I'm going to just come back again. And I'm going to take a reference point from the first peg. Okay, and it's slightly high there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to tidy it up so that ramp pin's nice and smooth. So that first peg there, and then from here I'm just going to tidy this. This is the bit where it's acceptable not to have a full blade when you're doing your final cut or your final trim.